הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shana Tova, a good and healthy year to us all. And Hine Ma Tov, indeed, how good it is to be here together as one community gathered here in the Abraham Swerdlow Sanctuary, a community gathered via our live stream. To wherever you are, we're grateful that you are with us, both in person and virtually. So as we prepare to begin this morning, I invite us to consider two central objects of Rosh Hashanah: the shofar and the apple. Now, as we enter a new year, many of us may feel like a shofar, hard on the outside, hollow on the inside. The past 18 months indeed have been hard and have hardened many of us. And the pandemic has also made us feel empty and depleted. Air is the only thing that fills a shofar before it spills out in its plaintive and oftentimes broken notes. Then it is empty and hard once again. And let's be honest with ourselves. Going into year 2 of this, many of us feel like a shofar as we begin this year. The apple, however, is the antidote to the shofar. It is crisp, nourishing, and wholesome. It is filled with juicy sweetness that tingles our taste buds. When we bite into an apple, the taste, the smell, the texture, even the satisfying sound of the crunch awaken us and make us feel alive. Cut an apple in half, and you reveal its seeds, which when planted lead to growth and regeneration and renewal. So we may feel like a shofar on this first day of these days of awe, and God willing, 10 days hence, we will feel more like an apple. And so as we embark on another year, uncertain and unpredictable, let us do the inner work and develop a positive outlook that can will us toward a year filled with growth, renewal, and promise. So a few administrative notes before we continue. First of all, thanks to everyone for complying with our mask mandate. It is meant to keep you and all of those around you safe. And just a reminder that our service is a little bit streamlined tonight, this morning, probably about an hour and a half. So wearing a mask shouldn't be that bad. If you flew to Florida or anywhere sometime this year, you probably wore a mask for longer, so it should be okay. For those who are logging in from online, if you would like a flip book electronic version of Mishkan HaNefesh, our Machzor, please go to ccarpress.org, that is ccarpress.org, and click to the links for the High Holy Day resources and look for links for the free flip book. And this will enable you to browse the Machzor freely, just the way that those of us here in the sanctuary are doing. And for those also on the live stream, please feel free to use the chat. Let us know that you're here, put your name, where you're logging in from. This will be helpful so that we can know who is here. And again, wishing everyone a Shana Tova. It is wonderful to have the voices of our choir this year. Maybe not quite not maybe the full 30 complement of voices that we have, but we have so many people who are participating. Thank you in advance for lifting up your voices. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Eric, welcome back. Great to have you. Rini Perlstein, again, thank you for helping to lead us as well as we embark on this beautiful and wonderful service. I'd like to invite Merrill Reese to come to the bima as we continue on page 109. Page 109.
Autumn light in maple leaves, bluest sky, new-washed dawn. Chorus of birds southward bound, deepest red chrysanthemums. Earth's first rains, smoky breeze, fresh-picked apples, honey sweet. Golden morning and the world reborn. Here we gather to greet the year, invitation to improve our lives. Joyful season and judgment day. Know this truth, we are free to change. Let the shofar summon us home, make this moment our return to you. Now in celebration, join, open us to the gifts of life.
And on page 110, let's join responsively. Ma tovu, how good they are, these tents of Jacob, how beautiful the homes where Israel dwells. And blessed are we who share this house which shelters us where we belong. This house of Torah, this house of love, a sacred assembly and communal strength. In small and humble rooms and splendid sanctuaries, today our people greet the turning of the year. We stand with all of them this morning, grateful we're alive to meet this day, first dawning of the year. For all of us, no matter where we've traveled, come back to celebrate the season of return. Give praise this morning, give thanks for our gathering, give ear to the ancient call that brings us home. Our hearts rise up in hope, our spirits reach for new beginnings. Our voices too lift up a melody that celebrates today.
Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah la'asok b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongues. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue.
Please rise as you are able for Baruch Hu. We are on page 142.
Praise the eternal sun and moon. Let all bright stars give praise to God. Praise the eternal vault of heaven. Let the waters above give praise to God. For the infinite called them into being, founded them, and fixed their bounds. Praise the eternal, all earth's creatures. Monsters of the depths give praise to God. Fire and hail, snow and smoke cloud. Storm wind that fulfills God's word. Mountains and hills, fruit trees and cedars. Animals and cattle, creeping things and soaring birds. Earthly rulers and all nations, princes and judges of every land. Young men and maidens, elders and children. Let them praise God's name, for God's name is exalted.
Continue on page 147. Yeah? Yes? Yep. Dan?
Thought I only did the bottom. Okay. I am the blessed, I am the blossom, pressed in a book, found again after 200 years. I am the maker, the lover, and the keeper. When the young girl who strays sits down to a table, she will sit beside me. I am food on the prisoner's plate. I am water rushing to the wellhead, filling the pitcher until it spills. I am the patient gardener, all of the dry and weedy garden. I am the stone step, the latch, and the working hinge. I am the heart contracted by joy, the longest hair white before the rest. I am there in the basket of fruit presented to the window. I am the musk rose opening, unattended, the fern on the boggy summit. I am the one whose love overcomes you, already with you, when you think to call my name. All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel. Know the oneness of the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to Makor HaChaim.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Avad. Please be seated. I invite Lily Cohen to lead us in the chanting of Ve'ahavta on page 152.
Ve'ahavta Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uv'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha Leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lechiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Continue on page 157 by Margie Copens.
Love God with your mind. Stay curious, open to questions, marvel and wonder of what it is. Love God with your heart. Stay alive to suffering and joy. Yearn for the world that could be. Love God with your strength. Open your hands and give. Work for the sake of what ought to be.
On page 163, remember the stories of slavery, and you will never stop working for freedom. Remember their fear at the edge of the sea, and self-doubt will never defeat you. Remember when desperation turned to celebration, and you will never let go of hope. Remember the words of the Baal Shem Tov. Forgetfulness leads to exile. Remembrance is the secret of redemption.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedor bal kodesh, nor tehilot osei pele, shira chadasha shibchu geulim. L'shimecha al svat hayam, yachad kulam hodu, nimlichu ve'amru, Adonai imach le'olam va'ed.
We turn to page 166 as we prepare to rise for the Amidah. If you would all join me, with me, please, in the middle of the page, beginning with make every effort. Make every effort to pray from the heart. Even if you do not succeed, The effort is precious in the eyes of the Eternal One. We rise together for the Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Mekonei Hakol, Nezocher Chasdei Avot Behimahot, Umevi Geula Livnei Bneihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, Zochreinu lechaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, Bekodvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, Lemancha Elohim chaim. Melech ozeh u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Nechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid atah. Mechakel chaim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Zomich noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidol melach, Melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, Michamocha el harachamim, Zochei Yetzurav, Lechaim berachamim, Nenemhan atah, L'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai. בחיי הכל.
Please be seated. We now come to one of the more challenging pieces of our High Holy Days liturgy, Una Tana Tokef, both familiar with its words and foreign with its theology. Do we believe God chooses who will live and who will die? Is God a puppet master pulling on the strings of our lives? What we do know, however, is that this day is filled with sacred power, and it is full of dread. Una Tana Tokef forces us to confront death even at this moment of rebirth and renewal. Rabbi David Wolpe suggests that, quote, by facing death, we are spurred to life. The year to come will bring death. That is the inescapable certainty of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We know that the year ahead will bring tragedies to bear. The question which each of us must answer, Wolpe asks, is simply this: knowing that next year will bring death, will we fill our days with the force, the promise, and the power of life? I'm going to wait a moment and hope that this really annoying humming goes away. By the way, this is our system, by the way. This has nothing to do with anyone else. Ross is going to take a quick look at that. Happens every now and then, stays, goes away. Usually not at a moment like this, but let's continue on page 174. Page 174. Uvachein ulecha ha'aleh kedusha ki ata Eloheinu melech. And so let these words of sanctity ascend to you, for you are our God and sovereign. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. In truth you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and you seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten, and when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark as an imprint like no other. And so a great shofar will cry, Tikiyah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water. On the next page, but through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree.
Uteshuva, utefila, utsetaka, mavirin adra, hagezaira.
You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere, a glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name, and our name you have linked with yours. We continue on page 184 with the Kedusha. Please rise on your feet or in your heart, whichever is most comfortable.
Nikadesh, Nikadesh, Nikadesh et Shimcha b'Olam, Nikadesh et Shimcha b'Olam, Kemagdima dishim oto b'Shnei Maharon, Kakatuv ayad nevi'echa v'karazeh elzeh ne'amar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivot, Melech haaretz kivoto. Adir, Adirenu, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonai, Adonenu, Madir, Madir, Shimcha b'choret, Baruch kevod לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נרגיש, קדושתך נרגיש, לשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. As we continue on page 195, to invite Ken Standing. Page 195.
This people's true history is a history of encounters with God. It has this history for its own sake and for the sake of humanity. It bears it and is borne by it. Every people is a question which God addresses to humanity. And every people, from its own place, with its special talents and possibilities, must answer for its own sake and for the sake of humanity.
On page 198. Moloch, God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, in your glory reign over the infinite expanse of space and time. In your grandeur be exalted, through your power show us your reality, then all who dwell on earth shall understand that you are their maker. Astound us with the beauty of your presence, so that every breath of life shall say, eternal is the God of Israel, all-embracing, God's rule and sovereignty. We now take a few moments for silent prayer.
Elohai Nitzor Lishonim Mira Usfatai Bedaber Mirma Elin Kalalai Nafshi Tidom V'nafshi Ki Afar Lakol Tiya Elohai 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 Nitzor Lishonim Mira Usfatai Bedaber Mirma Elin Kalalai Nafshi Nitzor Lishonim Mira Usfatai Medaber Mirma Elin Kalalai Nafshi Tidom V'nafshi Ki Afar Lakol Elohai Elohai Tach Libi Elin Kalalai Nafshi Tidom V'nafshi Ki Afar תהיה Elohai nitzor lishoni mira Usmatai medaber mima Velenkalalai nafshi tidom Venafshi kiafar lakot tiye Elohai Elohai
We turn now to page 222 as we rise for Avinu Malkeinu. Loving Father, infinite power, gentle, forgiving, lofty, inscrutable, Avinu Malkeinu. Compassionate Mother, omnipotent Lord, comforting presence, fathomless mystery, Avinu Malkeinu. Please join with me, our rock and redeemer, life of the universe, close to us always, impossibly far, Avinu Malkeinu. Embracing, confounding, accepting our frailty, decreeing our end, Avinu Malkeinu. None of these are true, none of them are you. Yet we stand as those before us have stood, summoned to judgment, longing for love, Avinu Malkeinu. May these words be a bridge. They come from our hearts. May they lead us to you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatonu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamal aleinu, ve'yolav aleinu, v'tapeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu
continue now with Seder Kiryat HaTorah, our service for the chanting and reading of Torah, on page 227.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'ein kemasecha Malchutecha malchut kol olamim U'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai melech Adonai imach le'olam va'ed Adonai hoz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim heitiv avirzoncha et Zion Tivnei chamut Yerushalayim Tivnei chamut Yerushalayim Ki becha levad batachnu Melech Elram benisa Adon olamim
Adonai, Adonai erachum v'chanun, erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, notzer chesed la'alafim, nosei avon v'fesha v'chata'a v'nakeh.
Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the thousandth generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rahum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon v'Fesha, v'Chata'a v'Nakeh. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Kadul Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagidula, lehagivula, lehatiferet, lehanetzach v'hahod. Ki cho b'shamayim ba'aretz, ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai הממלכה להבין נעשה לכל לראש.
Please be seated. This morning we will read the story of the binding of Isaac, Akedat Yitzchak. Challenging and difficult verses both familiar and terrifying, verses that we'll discuss a little bit later after our service. This year we are introducing something newer to our Torah services, something that might be different from what we've had before. We are having group aliyot, and this particular year, because of the situation, we'll have a couple members representing a couple of groups who will actually bless the Torah, and other members who are part of that group, if they are here in person today, will come up to the bima and stand on the little dots that are on the floor. For anyone who is part of these groups who are at home, please feel free to join in the aliyah and know that we thank you for your leadership in our congregation. So for the first aliyah, representing the women of Shirami is Amy Buondano, and the men's club, David Novick. I'd like to the aliyah la Torah. Come up to the bima. Now, any other members of Women of Shirami or Men's Club leadership who is here, you can come up to the steps. We're on page 240, and with the reading, you can follow along on page 240 if you'd like. Elam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai, Elam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
I will be filling in for someone who was not able to be here today. He learned it really well. Amen. Vayehi achar hadvarim ha'eleh ve'ha'elohim nisa et Abraham. Vayomer elav Abraham, Vayomer hineni, Vayomer kachna et bincha et yechidecha asher ahavta et Yitzchak v'lech lecha el eretz haMoriah v'ha'alehu sham leolah El achad harim asher omar elecha v'yatzkem Avraham baboker v'yachavosh et chamoro v'yikach et shnei neharav ito et Yitzchak beno v'yivka atzei olah Vayakom vayelech el hamakom asher amar lo ha'elohim b'yom hashlishi vayisa Abraham et einav vayaret hamakom merachok vayomer Abraham el ne'arav Shvu lachem po im hachamor v'ani han v'hanar ne'elcha ad ko v'nishtachavem v'nashuv alechem.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam natan kotuhenu, baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, David. And we're looking forward to a rejuvenated year of Women of Shirami and Men's Club this year. Our second reader will be Ivy Pearlstein. And for the second Aliyah, we invite Arthur Kraus and Barbara Roth, who are representing our Tikkun Olam committee. Lots of others who are at home as well. If anyone who is active in the committee right now in our leadership team, you can come forward as well. Tikkun Olam is also led by our chairs are Barbara and Essie Churkin. And we just thank them for their leadership in helping to raise up our congregation as a place where justice dwells. Ya'amdu la'alei ala Torah.
Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayikach Avraham et atzei ha'olah, vayasem el Yitzchak beno, Vayikach biyado et ha'esh ve'et ha'ma'achelet, vayelchu shnehem yachdav. Vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham aviv, vayomer avi, vayomer hineni veni, vayomer hinei ha'esh ve'ha'etzim, Ve'ayehaseh leolah. Vayomer Avraham Elohim Yireh lo haseh leolah v'ni. Vayelchu shnehem yachdav. Vayavo el hamakom asher amar lo ha'Elohim. Vayiven sham Avraham et hamizbeach v'yaroch et ha'etzim. Whoops. Hold this, thank you. Okay. Vayakod et Yitzchak beno vayasem oto el hamizbeach mimal la'etzim.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'Eloheinu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Koach.
I'm just going to hold the spot.
That's fine. Our third reader will be Rini Pearlstein. And for our third Aliyah, we're going to invite Natalie Cohen, who is representing our inclusion committee, also led by Bob Churkin. Back in February, when we had our Jewish Disabilities and Awareness Shabbat, out of that came this desire to really focus on how we can be a more inclusive community, really with people with all kinds of different needs in our community, both with physical limitations, psychological, whatnot. We are working on making ourselves a much more inclusive community. So take a look at, or pay attention to what will be happening in the year ahead. And many thanks to Bob for your leadership and Natalie for your leadership and for representing today. Ya'amdu ta'amod la'ali ala Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayishlach Avraham et yado, vayikach et hama'achelet lishchot et beno.
Vayikra elav malach Adonai min hashamayim, Vayomer Avraham, Avraham, Vayomer hineni, Vayomer al tishlach yadcha el hanar ve'al ha'azlo me'uma ki ata yadati ki yireh Elohim ata ve'lo chasachta et bincha et yechidecha mimeni. Vayisav Avraham et einav, vayar v'hinei ayil achar ne'echaz basvach bekarnav. Vayelech Avraham, vayikach et ha'ayil, vayalehu le'olah tachat beno. Vayikra Avraham, Shem hamakom hahu Adonai Yireh, Asher ye'amer hayom behar Adonai Yireh.
Baruch atah Adonai that's right. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Yasher Koach.
You can just. Yeah.
Yamdu Hamagbia v'Hagolelet. We call upon Rabbi Riskin to be our Hagba.
And those around to help dress the Torah.
And Ellie and Michael will help to be our Golalim. Please rise as you are able. Vezot Torah asher sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael, Api Adonai beyad Moshe. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai lai.
Avinu Sheba Shamayim on page 274. Avinu Sheba Shamayim, Avinu, you who are high above all nation states and people, Rock of Israel, the one who has saved us and preserved us in life. Bless the state of Israel, first flowering of our redemption. Be her loving shield, a shelter of lasting peace. Guide her leaders and advisors by your light of truth. Instruct them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect our holy land. Deliver them from danger. Crown their efforts with success. Grant peace to the land, lasting joy to all of her people. And together we say, Amen.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado.
Wow.
Jerusalem, 2,000 years ago. It is a desperate time. Inside the walls of Jerusalem, factions of Jews are fighting with one another. Outside of Jerusalem's walls, the Romans who control the region, led by a general named Vespasian, are preparing to attack. Some Jews want to fight the Romans, even though they know they cannot defeat that mighty army. Other Jews believe that surrendering is the more prudent choice. The divisions among the Jewish factions are enormous. Most of the people inside of the city walls are sick and starving. The future looks bleak. The fate of the city seems to be sealed. As tensions continue to mount throughout Jerusalem, a leading sage named Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai summons his students. Inside of a study hall nestled deep somewhere inside the fragile and distressed city, Yochanan ben Zakkai proposes a plan, a very risky plan that requires a great amount of courage. Failure will lead to certain death. He needs to escape from Jerusalem. Now, the only people permitted to leave the city at this time are mourners who are carrying their dead to be buried outside of the city walls. Yochanan's plan is to fake his own death and have his students smuggle him out of the city in a coffin. And miraculously, this plan works, and Yochanan and his students escape. Now, the second part of his plan is just as risky. Yochanan manages to secure a meeting with the brutal Roman general Vespasian, and he makes an extraordinary request. Vespasian, he says, when you become the emperor of the Roman Empire, I have one request. Ten li Yavne v'chachameha. These four extraordinary words changed the course of Jewish history and saved Judaism. Ten li Yavne v'chachameha. Give me Yavne and its students. Far from Jerusalem, the historic center of Judaism, Yochanan ben Zakkai established a learning academy in the small coastal town of Yavne. There, he and his disciples reinvented Jewish life. Sacrifice was no longer the predominant Jewish ritual practice. Prayer took its place. One did not need to be in Jerusalem to celebrate Judaism. One could do so in the home. Learning and law became the guiding lights of Judaism, not sacrifice. And our model today of rigorous study, robust communal life, and home-based observance were built by Yochanan and his disciples in Yavne. And while his world was collapsing around him and the existence of Judaism was in peril, he found a way to innovate and reinvent Judaism so that it could survive. The Yavne model builds new frameworks from scratch upon existing foundations. There is, however, another compelling model. It is less traumatic and disruptive and enables us to repair existing frameworks. This is the Mishkan model. Now, the Levites were the smallest tribe of the ancient Israelites. However, they had the most important job of all the tribes. They were responsible for the Mishkan, the desert tabernacle. Set up in the middle of the Israelites' temporary camp, the Mishkan was the focal point for all of the Israelites. The Mishkan was a sanctuary. It was where sacrifices took place. It was the dwelling place of God. It was also mobile. Every time the Israelites moved to a new camp, which they did regularly as they wandered through the desert wilderness, the Levites would dismantle, transport, then reassemble the Mishkan. Each time they took it apart, they examined every ring, socket, thread, and cord. And when a Levite noticed that something was damaged, he repaired it. If it was broken beyond repair, he replaced it. Because they paid close attention to the structure, the Mishkan was always strong and secure as it was transported through the desert. And each time it was reassembled, it looked exactly the same, but it was a little stronger than before. Yavne and the Mishkan provide us with two different yet complementary models that are very much at the heart of our High Holy Days. The Yavne model invites us to begin again from scratch, to completely reinvent ourselves. The Mishkan model invites us to closely examine ourselves, our behaviors, words, actions, and practices, and make ourselves better. Periodically, we dismantle, inspect, and repair what is broken. And sometimes we have to completely rebuild. Each model provides us with a practice that leads to complete tshuva, a return to our essence, to becoming the best version of ourselves. And when we enact a Yavne model, we are completely transformed inside and out. When we enact the Mishkan model, we are stronger on the inside, even though outwardly we look the same. And so, friends, as we enter a new year, we need to incorporate the rebuilding aspects of Yavne and the repairing aspects of the Mishkan into our lives. This process begins with an inspection and introspection. We closely examine our behaviors and habits and the foundations of our lives: home, career, school, religious life, social life. We determine what new frameworks need to be built and which existing structures simply need to be repaired and strengthened. We've all experienced our share of tragedy and trauma over the past 18 months. Some of us are completely broken and need to rebuild our lives from scratch. The unexpected death of a loved one, an extended period of joblessness, a business that failed, or the end of a marriage can destroy everything and force us to rebuild like Yavne. Others of us have had disappointments and difficulties, but nothing that caused our structure to collapse. Some of its fixtures need to be examined, repaired, or swapped out, but it does not need to be replaced. Despite tragedy and trauma, disappointment and difficulty, managing competing demands of home and school, starting a new job remotely, Zoom fatigue, we can also reflect on the blessings of these past 18 months. After all, the disruption of the pandemic did help us find greater joy in some facets of our lives. Adult children who returned home enabled parents to connect with them on a different level. People found more time to learn a new hobby or incorporate a new practice into their lives. We had time to reflect on our priorities and aspirations. Some of us learned to play an instrument or baked challah every week. Sourdough bread seemed to be a thing. Some enjoyed the additional hours with family because they were no longer commuting several hours each day. We enjoyed casual Friday and casual Monday through Thursday as well. These, my friends, are some of the blessings that brought us joy. And so as we continue to emerge from the affliction of COVID and reflect on the period before the pandemic, we ask ourselves, what do we want to completely tear down and rebuild from scratch like Yavne? And what do we want to maintain and strengthen, similar to how it was before, like the Mishkan? Which combination of Yavne practices and Mishkan practices will make our lives strong, healthy, stable, and secure? These days of awe require us to reflect on the past and learn lessons from it as we forge a way forward to a future that remains unknown, but has the potential to be very bright. Blessings of the pandemic can also emerge out of our darkest and most difficult moments. Nothing was worse than watching a loved one die alone, hearing their last loving words shared through a cell phone, held by a nurse completely covered in PPE. And yet, silver linings emerged after losing a job at the moment your aging or ill parent needed greater care that you could now provide. Blessings where an unexpected change in one's circumstances enabled them to try something completely new and different, a career change, a move to a new city, early retirement. People who were used to lengthy commutes, long working hours, and time away from home to further their careers now had the chance to reevaluate their priorities. If we can make permanent the temporary changes that the pandemic imposed on us and that brought us joy and contentment, then we will have benefited from these last 18 months in ways that were once hard to imagine. Just as there have been blessings in our own lives, so too have there been joys and blessings in the life of our synagogue and greater community. And while the pandemic forced us to move completely to Zoom for most of our services and programs, we discovered that more of you were yearning to connect with us, and you could do so from the comfort of your home. We had more people join us for Shabbat services on Zoom than we ever had in the sanctuary on a given week. The pandemic brought about that Yavne-style change. We expanded programming beyond the walls of Shir Mi, providing meaningful and impactful gatherings that would take place outside of our building. The synagogues of the Bucks County Kehillah programmed more together this year than we ever have before. And this would not have happened, or at least so quickly, without the pandemic. And now, my friends, there's no turning back. My guess is that Ross and friends will be at the back of our sanctuary every year from now as we continue to live stream and be in person. Because we will continue to offer services, programs, classes, and social events online as well as in person, enabling us to reach more of our community on a regular basis. No longer is the inability to drive at night, nor having time to eat dinner before services, or even being in Florida for the winter, impediments to accessing all that Shir Mi has to offer. We need to rebuild like Yavne and repair like the Mishkan. We will continue to create mission-aligned programs that look completely new and different, but are built on an existing foundation. We will evaluate and modify some of what we do already, but that could be done better. Imagine neighbors inviting one another to their home for Shabbat dinner and then tuning into a Zoom-only Shabbat service that night. I don't think we would have ever considered that pre-pandemic. Now we can. Imagine people gathering together at Shir Mi to welcome a scholar zooming in from the West Coast to teach us. We would have never considered this prior to the pandemic, but this year, much of our lifelong learning will adopt that model. We can join for 15 minutes on Zoom for a short meditation to begin the day, or have committee meetings, all of our committee meetings, virtually. Right, Ellie? All of these innovations, so we can stay home at night. All of these innovations have contributed to a new vitality at Shir Mi, and one that we will continue to build upon for years to come. Friends, the months and years ahead will be filled with elements of Yavne, building a completely new framework, and elements of the Mishkan, the same structure but stronger and more secure. This construction work will take place in our homes, the synagogue, our schools, and our workplaces. However, all of this work must begin within first. What in your life needs to be rebuilt? What needs to be repaired? How can you experience moments of blessing during these difficult and uncertain times? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai brought into being a living, breathing, and vibrant Judaism out of the ashes of a destroyed Jerusalem. We too can rebuild and restore meaningful Jewish lives from the devastation of the pandemic. We have been broken, but not beyond repair. Let us rebuild towards a promising future filled with hope, joy, opportunity, and blessing. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. One of the more challenging parts of preparing for services inside was how to handle the shofar service. So today we are just going to be presenting one, here in the sanctuary, just one of the 3 sections of our shofar service. Later on this afternoon at 3:45 at Tyler State Park in the Maze picnic area, we'll be having the full complement of shofar sounds outside. So if you own a shofar, please come and join us. We also don't have the 9 or 10 people scattered throughout the sanctuary, but we have our very own Eric Schnitzer, who will be sounding the shofar for us in just a few moments or two. And you will notice that his shofar is also appropriately masked like everyone else. See, we're thinking of everything, okay, folks? So I invite us to please turn to page 278, as we share the shofarot, the third and final section of the shofar service.
According to Rabbah, the Holy One said, on Rosh Hashanah, recite before me words of Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, so that you may acknowledge me as ruler over you. Remembrance, so that remembrances of you may rise up favorably before me. And how shall this be accomplished? Through the sounds of the shofar.
A prayer for righteous anger. Misery for breakfast, morning coffee with the news of distant deaths, because someone's always suffering and there's bound to be a crisis raging somewhere, or a quieter catastrophe barely at the threshold of our notice. We're accustomed to the feeling of something going wrong, like static in the background, tuned out so that we can get on with our day. And it's just the same as yesterday, and nothing can be done. So there's not much point in getting too upset. But if something were to shock us, like a baby's piercing wail or a fire bell in the night, like a punch in the stomach or a puncture in the eardrum, like a savage call to conscience or a frantic cry for help, would we scream like a shofar and get mad enough to act? When a ram's horn is sounded in a city, do the people not take alarm? Page 282. All right. You revealed your glory, a presence in a cloud, and a people became holy when you spoke with them. Amid thunder and lightning, you made yourself known. With blasting shofar, you appeared. God, revealed to us and to our fathers and mothers before us, God of revelation, play the song of our freedom on the great shofar. Let your banner fly over the gathering of our exiles. Bring back the dispersed. Let those who are scattered find their way home. Let the joyful songs of Zion greet us in Jerusalem, your holy city, the place of our people's eternal happiness. Page 284. The blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar.
Shavarim, Truah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Truah. See how it is with the mask now. Let's see how it is with the mask on the shofar. Tekiah Gedolah. Yish koach. It's my pleasure to invite Ellie Short, president of our congregation, to share a few announcements and some words of greeting. Ellie.
Shana Tova to all of you here and all of you online. I can't tell you how happy I am to be back in this sanctuary, and I hope all of you who aren't here today will feel safe to join us next year. Thank you, Rabbi Briskin, Cantor Kohlbrenner, Rabbi Goldberg, for leading us in service today. Thank you, Rabbi Briskin, for your thoughtful words for your sermon. And thank you so much to our choir. It's nice to see Eric Schnitzer back here again. And choir, I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to actually hear your voices live. I never will take this experience for granted again after this past couple years. Many thanks to our ritual committee, chaired by Debbie Rosenthal and Michael Smolin, for all the work you've done on this. And also many thanks to John Stevens and our Sheer Open committee, who are enabling all of us to be here safely today. And many thanks also to Phil Nordlinger, our executive director, and the staff who have put together this service and made them run so smoothly for us. This afternoon, spend the time at Tyler Park with us. There's available a lunch and hanging out at 2:30 in the Mays picnic area. There's an interactive family service led by Rabbi Goldberg, Fern Levy, and our teens. At the playground at 2:30, the chauffeur service, and also Tashli starting at 3:45 in the Mays picnic area. Tomorrow morning, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, adult learning will be here at Shalom Hall or over Zoom at 9:30. Torah on the Trail at Tyler Park, 11 a.m. And finally, we have a Tikkun Olam project at Steyer's Orchard. Everything that we pick will be donated to our food bank, and wear your Shir Me Tikkun Olam t-shirts. Let's show our Shir Me proud. Next Friday night is Shabbat Shuvah. Join us for services here, in person at 6:30 or over Zoom. We will be commemorating 9/11 and also dedicating new memorial plaques, new since July of 2019. Support our food drive, the High Holiday Food Drive. We have a big goal this year, 10,000 pounds. I know we can do it. Drop off your donations anytime over the next few weeks until our big distribution day, which will be on Monday, October 4th. There is a flyer with all the details. Please support this and help our community. Monetary contributions are also welcome. Look for information also about our lifelong learning program. There are a few hard copies and more will be electronic versions. There's a whole variety of programs, a chance for us to learn together, get to know each other more. They range everything from music to movies, text study, book discussions, speaker series. There's something for everyone here. Don't forget, there's a high holiday treat awaiting you as you leave today. Please pick it up. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Shir Me, I wish all of you a happy, healthy, sweet new year. Shana Tova.
Also, one more note. Last year when we were completely online, we had an abbreviated Torah service, and then we had a time of study together on Zoom. It worked out really well. So today we're going to experiment. For those who would like to, you are not at all required to. Right after the end of service, we'll probably take about a 5-7 minute break. For those who want to stay and study a little bit of the Binding of Isaac, some text study, and have some conversation, we'll invite you to do so. Obviously, it'll be a much smaller crowd, so you folks can move up. And that will last till about probably 10 of 1 or so, maybe a little bit, but no more than like half an hour, 40 minutes at the most. So if you want to join us for a little bit of study afterwards, I invite you just to stick around. And again, for this afternoon, when we gather for our full complement of shofar blasts at 3:45, again, if you have your own shofar or anything that sounds or resembles a shofar, please do bring it. And for those who are coming back, definitely the dress in the park this afternoon is casual, for sure. Our concluding prayers begin on page 290, page 290. If I can let you go as trees let go their leaves, so casually one by one, if I can come to know what they do know, that fall is the release, the consummation, then fear of time and the uncertain fruit would not distemper the great lucid skies, this strangest autumn, mellow and acute. If I can take the dark with open eyes and call it seasonal, not harsh or strange, for love itself may need a time of sleep, and tree-like stand unmoved before the change, lose what I lose to keep what I can keep, the strong root still alive under the snow. Love will endure if I can let you go. Our thoughts turn to our loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days and those who have died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing in this new year and always. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 292. I invite you to please rise on your feet or in your heart, whichever is most comfortable, as we join together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon uv'yom echon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'alam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela ule'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. May this be a year of love and kindness. May strangers come to be friends. May truth and compassion always guide us. Amen. May this be a year of hope and healing for all of those in need. May all of our deeds be a blessing. Amen. A new year, a good year, a chance to start all over. A new year, a sweet year, a chance to bring us closer. May this be a year of selfless giving. May this be a year of peace. And may we forgive and be forgiven. Amen. A new year, a good year, a chance to start all over. A new Amen.
L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Shana tova.